There's this constant tension, isn't there, between, how much freedom you as an individual should have and where society gets to draw the line.
It's fundamental. Every law, every social rule. It's basically an answer to that question.
Okay, let's unpack this by Mill's book, On Liberty.
And for this conceptual debate, we're going straight to a classic powerhouse answer. John Stuart Mill's On Liberty from 1859. Right. Our goal here is really to get to the heart of Mill's argument to synthesize that core principle he lays out for where collective authority should stop and individual freedom begins.
And it might sound old 1859, but honestly, this feels incredibly relevant right now. Mill was deeply concerned about what he called the oppressive yoke of uniformity.
That pressure to conform.
Exactly the tyranny of what everyone else thinks. And you could argue that pressure is, maybe even stronger today, just in different ways.
Oh, absolutely, that's social pressure. That's really Mill's focus. But to understand just how radical his solution was, we should probably touch on his background. It was unusual.
Unusual is putting it mildly. We're talking about a kid reading Greek at
3 and Latin at 8, philosophy at 12. It was this incredibly intense, almost experimental education
driven by his father, James Mill, and that whole Benthamite philosophy.
Right, Benthamism, all focused on utility. The greatest happiness for the greatest number, very rational, very calculated.
But the source material points out this hyper-rationality kind of backfired, didn't it? He had a major mental crisis in his 20s.
He did. He realized that pure utility, just calculating happiness, it missed something vital about being human, about individual growth, passion, feeling. So he started moving away from those really strict dogmas.
And it wasn't just him thinking this through in isolation. Harriet Taylor Mill was crucial.
Immensely. Mill himself said On Liberty and his later works were joint productions. He even claimed he just held the pen for her ideas sometimes.
Especially ideas that push back against too much government control over government, as he put it.
Which is perfect context because it fuels the core mission of On Liberty to lay down, as he says, a very simple principle to define the limits of control.
Okay, so let's get to it. This simple principle,
Mill calls it the harm principle, and it's deceptively simple. He argues the only reason society can justifiably interfere with your individual liberty, your actions, is for self-protection.
Meaning
to prevent harm to others. That's it.
Wow. So not because something is better for you, not because it would make you happier or healthier.
Nope. Your own good, physical or moral, is not a sufficient warrant. Society can reason with you, persuade you, but not compel you, unless your actions are harming someone else.
That's incredibly radical when you stop and think about it.
It leads to his famous conclusion over himself, over his own body and mind. The individual is sovereign, absolute sovereignty, and things that only concern yourself.
But he did put some boundaries around that, didn't he? It wasn't for absolutely everyone in every situation.
Correct. He's clear this applies only to human beings and the maturity of their faculties. So not children, not people incapable of governing themselves.
And he makes that controversial distinction about backward states of society.
Yes, where he suggests despotism might be legitimate if the aim is improvement. It's a point many critique today, but it shows the context he was working in.
Okay, so assuming we're talking about mature individuals in a developed society, he then maps out specific areas where this liberty should be absolute, right?
3 core domains.
First, your inner world, freedom of thought, feeling, opinion, total freedom there.
The inward domain of consciousness, he calls it absolutely fundamental. Second, liberty of tastes and pursuits.
So choosing your own lifestyle, your own plan for life, even if others think it's foolish or eccentric.
As long as it doesn't harm them. Yes. And third, freedom to associate, to combine with others.
For any purpose, again, provided it doesn't involve harm and everyone involved is a consenting adult.
Exactly. Freedom of thought, freedom of lifestyle, freedom of association.
But here's the kicker you mentioned earlier. Mill wasn't just worried about governments passing laws against these freedoms.
No, not primarily. His biggest fear was more insidious. It was the tyranny of the majority.
Social pressure.
Precisely the power of prevailing opinion, of custom to shape behavior and thought. He saw this social tyranny as potentially worse than political oppression because it's harder to escape. It penetrates deeper, aims to enslave the soul itself.
Which leads us straight into the realm of ideas. If you're sovereign over your own mind, that's where the first big battles happen.
Perfect transition. This brings us to Chapter 2 and his passionate defense of free discussion. Here's where it gets really interesting. His starting point is dynamite. To silence any opinion, is to assume you are infallible.
Because you're basically saying, I know for certain that this idea is wrong, and no one else should even hear it.
Exactly. And history teaches us humans are very, very fallible. So silencing discussion means you might be silencing truth. That's his first pillar.
Okay, that makes sense. The suppressed opinion might actually be true, but what if we're pretty sure it's false? Like demonstrably wrong?
I still need the discussion. That's a second pillar. Even if an opinion is false, truth benefits from colliding with error. Because if you hold a true belief but never have to defend it, never grapple with objections, it becomes dead dogma, not a living truth.
Like you just parrot the words without understanding the meaning or the reasons behind it.
Precisely. You lose the vitality, the real force of the belief. It needs to be tested, challenged, debated to remain alive and meaningful in your mind.
Okay, so 1, it might be true. 2, even if false, debating its strength is the actual truth. What's the third?
This is maybe the most common scenario. The competing opinions, the mainstream view and the dissenting view, they often share the truth between them.
So neither side has the whole picture.
Rarely, Mill says, popular opinions are often true, but seldom or never. The whole truth, the dissenting opinion, the unconventional one, usually contains some part of the truth, some perspective that the dominant view is missing.
So we need that conflicting view to get a more complete understanding. We absolutely do. Silencing it means we remain stuck with a partial, one-sided truth.
And Mill uses some powerful historical examples to show the cost of getting this wrong, of assuming infallibility.
Devastating examples. Socrates condemned for impiety for corrupting the youth by people who genuinely thought they were protecting society,
And Christ executed as a blasphemer,
again by authorities acting on the prevailing legal and religious beliefs of their time. Mill's point isn't just that they were wrong, but that the people condemning them were often not bad men. They were acting according to their lights, their sense of duty.
like Marcus Aurelius.
Exactly. A philosopher emperor renowned for his justice and virtue, yet he persecuted Christians. Why?
Because he genuinely feared this new religion would unravel the social fabric of the Roman Empire.
He acted from a sense of duty based on the information and beliefs available to him. But his certainty led him to suppress what turned out to be a monumental historical force. It's a chilling reminder.
So, Faker, maybe we don't execute heretics today? But Mills saw a modern equivalent emerging.
Yes, he saw society shifting from legal penalties to using social stigma as the main tool for enforcing conformity of opinion. Cancel culture, 19th century style.
You could say that he worried this social pressure creates a kind of peace in the intellectual world, sure, but at a terrible cost.
Which is
The sacrifice of the entire moral courage of the human mind. People become afraid to think differently, afraid to speak out. They become mere conformers to commonplace.
And that just hits so hard today, doesn't it? When you think about online dynamics, the pylons, the pressure to adopt the correct view or face ostracization, it feels like Mill's social tyranny has just found new digital tools.
It really resonates. It's that soul-enslaving pressure he was warning about, maybe amplified and accelerated.
This connects directly to the next big theme, right? If freedom of thought is vital, then freedom to act on those thoughts, to live differently, must also be vital. Individuality.
Exactly. Individuality as an element of well-being. Mill builds on thinkers like Wilhelm von Humboldt. The idea is that the human goal isn't just happiness, but the full development of our capacities, the highest and most harmonious development of his powers to a complete and consistent whole.
And you can't achieve that by just copying everyone else.
No, Mill draws this great contrast. There's the person who chooses their own path in life using all their faculties, observation, reason, judgment, decision-making,
And the person who just follows custom because it is the custom.
right? That person, Mill says, uses only the ape-like faculty of imitation. They don't develop their own character, their own strength.
This is where he uses that brilliant analogy of the tree versus the machine. Yes, human nature isn't a machine to be built after a model. It's like a tree, which requires to grow and develop itself on all sides, following its own internal forces.
Beautiful image, but what's stopping the tree from growing?
The same enemy as before? The despotism of custom. He argues, the biggest danger in modern society isn't an excess of personal desire, but a lack of it, a deficiency of personal impulses and preferences.
People are too worried about fitting in.
Yes, they ask, what do people like me usually do, instead of asking what suits my individual character and desires?
He even uses China as this stark warning example.
He does. He argues that China, by perfecting the rule of custom over centuries, had become stationary. Progress had stopped. If it were to advance, he controversially suggested, it must be by foreigners.
A warning that Europe could become another China if individuality withered away.
Absolutely. A civilization that perfects conformity eventually stagnates. That's why he champions eccentricity.
Its difference, even weirdness, is a sign of life.
It's often a sign of strength, of character, he says. Eccentricity has always flourished. Character is strong. So an age that dislikes eccentricity, that tries to smooth it all out, is actually in chief danger.
Okay, this is all compelling, but brings us back to the really tough part. Applying this in practice, how do you actually draw that line between what's just my business and what affects others, the self-regarding versus other-regarding conduct?
The significance question. This is where the practical difficulties arise. Mill tries to clarify
Okay,
actions that are primarily self-regarding, things like personal foolishness, low tastes, being rash, maybe intemperance. These bring their own natural consequences.
like people might lose respect for you, or you suffer the direct health or financial results.
Exactly. Those are the natural and spontaneous consequences. Society can disapprove, can warn you avoid your company even, but it shouldn't use legal or social punishment directly for the self-regarding act itself.
But the line is crossed when
That conduct violates a specific duty to others or causes perceptible harm to their interests. Mill talks about a distinct and assignable obligation.
examples.
Well, if your extravagance means you can't pay your debts, you've harmed your creditors. If you're a soldier or policeman drunk on duty, you failed a specific obligation and put others at risk. That's clearly other regarding and punishable.
Okay, that seems reasonably clear. But what about indirect harm or potential harm? This is where it gets messy, right? Like the temperance example Mill tackles.
Right? The main law debate. People wanted to prohibit alcohol sales. Mill wasn't arguing about whether drinking was good or bad, but about the justification being used for prohibition.
Which was,
Proponents were claiming a social right. They argued essentially that because my taxes might eventually go up to support the poor house where you end up because of your drinking, I have a right to stop you from drinking in the first place.
so my potentially foolish behavior today violates your social right because it might cost you money down the road.
Exactly. They claimed the drinker's behavior infringed on the taxpayer's social right to not have to pay for the consequences of intemperance.
Mill thought this was
A monstrous principle because think where it leads. If any action that might indirectly eventually maybe cost society something gives everyone else the right to control it.
then pretty much everything becomes controllable.
Precisely. It opens the door to interfering in almost any personal choice on the grounds that it might have some remote, speculative, negative consequence for others. It gives everyone, as Mill put it, a vested interest in each other's moral, intellectual, and even physical perfection, defined by whoever is making the claim. The scope for interference becomes limitless.
So we have to stick to actual demonstrable harm or violation of a clear duty.
That's the core of the harm principle. Though interestingly, Mill does allow for some state interference. That seems paradoxical at first glance,
Like,
like compelling parents to educate their children. That's an interference. But it's seen as enforcing a duty to the child, enabling their future liberty.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
The famous one? Forbidding someone from selling themselves into slavery.
Wait, if I'm sovereign over myself, why can't I choose to become a slave?
Because, Mill argues, the principle of liberty can't be used to justify destroying liberty itself. By selling yourself into slavery, you abdicate your liberty permanently. You give up all future use of freedom in that one act. Freedom doesn't mean being free, not to be free.
So the principle has to protect its own foundation.
Exactly. These exceptions show the nuance, but the main thrust is always about limiting interference to preventing clear harm to others.
Okay, so summing up this core idea, Mill's harm principle isn't just a rule, it's like a constant challenge to us. It forces us to ask, are we stepping in to prevent real harm, or are we just trying to make others live by our code?
A vital check, as you said earlier, not just against government overreach, but against that powerful social pressure, the tyranny of the majority opinion that pushes everyone towards conformity.
And in his conclusion, Mill actually broadens the argument against too much government power, even beyond strict liberty concerns.
He does. He gives 3 additional reasons why government should generally hold back, even when it's not violating someone's liberty directly. What are they? First, simply individuals or groups might just do the job better than the government. Practical efficiency.
Okay, common sense.
Second, even if individuals do it less well than government officials could, letting them do it is crucial for their own mental education.
Learning by doing, developing skills and character.
Exactly. This is the value he saw in things like jury duty, local government participation, running voluntary organizations. It cultivates capable citizens. Having the government do everything for people stunts their development.
Makes them right.
And his third objection is about the danger of concentrating too much power and information in the hands of the state.
Don't add unnecessarily to the already vast powers of government.
Because eventually, that bureaucracy becomes the only pool of experience and talent, and the public becomes incapable of critiquing it or guiding it. It leads to stagnation in the long run.
Which brings us right back to his final powerful warning. It connects the quality of the individuals to the quality of the state itself.
It's such a profound closing thought. The worth of a state in the long run is the worth of the individuals composing it.
And the state which postpones the interests of their mental expansion and elevation, which dwarfs its people.
We'll find that with small men, no great thing can really be accomplished.
Wow. So the ultimate challenge Mill leaves us, especially now in this age of intense social pressure and digital conformity, is pretty stark.
It really is. Are we cultivating individuals who are encouraged to grow, think, experiment, even be eccentric? Or are we implicitly demanding everyone fit a mold, become small men and women in the service of some perceived collective good or easy conformity?
Because according to Mill, the path we choose there doesn't just determine individual happiness, it determines the long-term vitality and worth of society itself.